What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Amanda of the Almighty Category 6. Thank you for being here. It is great to have you here.
It is great to see you guys. How's it going?
Doing all right. It's doing all right. I got to tell you, your new album, Firecry, is absolutely awesome. They say the third time is a charm. This is album number 3, and it is absolutely awesome. Was there sort of like a
Oh,
vision you had in mind for the making of Firecry in a way? Was it continuing in a similar vein off of like War is Hell and your other albums, or was this meant to sort of like signify a new beginning for Category 6?
I think you kind of solidified both reasons actually in that question because sort of my writing style is very personal. I'm inspired by a lot of different people that write that way, but I like to write about things that I've actually experienced or have witnessed myself. I find in that vein of things I'm more comfortable writing. So I think with the third album, it's definitely a much more heavier version of Category 6, and I think thusly we're a lot more heavier and mature at the same time. I think the sound is more mature, but definitely there's definitely been some influences that I've had in previous albums that I've taken with me on this third record. But I think this is my angriest writing that I've ever done. I was actually, as we all were, stuck in the pandemic, and I had a lot on my mind during that time. I had been assaulted at a show. I was grabbed by a dude at a show, which wasn't very fun. I'm a very supportive person, so I always stick around for all the other bands to play. And there was a really great band playing, and I was just right down by the crowd, and this dude just grabbed me very inappropriately. So I had to go to court, and it was a very big thing. And so, really, this is like my call to arms. It's kind of like my swan song for me personally. And the guys just really take it there with me, you know? And yeah, so it's definitely been a story to tell. So there's a difference there in that I've been through some stuff. But I've been through a lot of things since I was a little kid. So everything that I write about is obviously very personal. So
Yeah. To write from a personal spot, especially for something, that put you in a rather dark and angry place, it's obviously very cathartic and it's a good release to write about stuff like that. But also confronting your own personal demons and your own traumas, if you will, does that also maybe make the songwriting process just as deteriorating in a way?
yeah, absolutely. Like it's both very draining, but also very invigorating to write music like that. Like one of the tracks off our album, the third album, is called Cradle Will Fall. And that song is directly about my experience with child abuse. I'm a child abuse survivor. I'm an open book about all those things, you know? And it's what makes me, I think, a pretty cool person because I don't BS things. I just, I like to tell people the truth, and in truth there's peace, and there's solace in peace. So I wrote Cradle Will Fall back in, believe it or not, I wrote the lyrics to that back in like 2008,
Oh, wow.
when I was in, yeah. And then the music for that particular song, of course, didn't come till later, in the recent years, of course, with the guys. But I wrote it in a very dark time. So yeah, Cradle Will Fall is definitely one of those ones that kind of was really draining. And I find myself when I'm singing it, like I gotta just like focus on something in the room or something because it can really put you like, it's almost like when you're in therapy and they ask you to close your eyes and picture, your inner child or the little person that was dealing with that stuff. That's kind of me every time I have to sing it, but at the same time, it's a release, so it's very therapeutic, in that sense. So,
Having the lyrics to a song like Cradle Will Fall was one of my personal favorites on this album. But like,
oh,
but like
I love it.
with a track like Burning Bridges, I loved how you completely reinvented the Heart cover as well. That's not an easy
Oh,
song.
thank you.
That's not an easy song to sing. And I was very impressed. And you open up with Firecry. I think all of the lyrics are very compelling. Just as I feel like if you read the lyrics without music, it's just as hard hitting as the actual music itself in a way. So, do you always need the music? You mentioned you had the lyrics to Cradle Will Fall even before the debut of Category 6. So, like, do you always need music before you come up with lyrics, or do lyrics maybe help guide how the song will actually sound?
I love that question a lot, actually, because it's a bit of both. It's kind of like I could be literally usually in the witching hour of the night, I will wake up and I will have to go somewhere and write down lyrics, or I'll just completely forget them like most people. But there's that, and then there's the whole musicality process where Jeff will have a guitar riff, or Keith might have a really cool bass line, and I'm like, that's really spicy, or you know what I mean, like something might work there. But a lot of times, more often than not, though, to be completely honest, I'm almost like a poet. I sort of write poems in a sense of things, and it's free verse, and I write as many words as I can about that particular situation, and then it becomes a song. You know what I mean? So it starts more as a lyric, and then we kind of come together, and usually whatever they have at the table matches what I have at the table, if that makes any sense.
It,
So
it does make a lot of sense, but and category 6 is a band, and it's four individuals, and then you bring an engineer or producer into the picture, so it brings more individuals, and we all have our own personal experiences in a way. Obviously, you have a camaraderie with your band, but in the end, like you've had your own experiences that you express. I'm sure all of your members have had their own experiences. So, does that almost is it almost like is it almost kind of hard to sort of like maybe express your story to your bandmates to write according to if they haven't gone through the same experiences you have? I've always wondered how a band is formed of individuals who all went through different things. Like there's bands I listen to where one member went through some of the worst trauma you could ever have in your life, and then the other
yeah.
member went through just perfectly normal. So
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of, very much like we have a mixed bag of people, obviously, going on in our band. Like Jeff is from a very small community outside of where I live, which is St. John's, which is in Newfoundland. Keith is also from a smaller community. And they all had their own individual, I guess, like adversities growing up, like Jeff being super heavy metal and like edgy and stuff. And he was the one wearing all the black stuff, like in the 80s. Like he was a teenager in the 80s. I was born in the 80s. You know what I mean? So there's that. And he comes with a lot of experience with that, of course. But you're right that it's such an interesting question, because I never really thought of it like that too. It's I bring a lot of the trauma, to be completely honest, and how my band has allowed me to be like kind of like use it as a diary of sorts to express myself and to find peace in that, but also show my talent and my voice. I think is really cool, and it says a lot about the guys in the band, both Jeff and Keith. But also we have a new drummer, Matt, as well, that just started with us recently as well. And they all have the same kind of personality, like I'm like, look, I want to get down to business and talk about, I don't know, child abuse. And it's like, okay, cool, here's a riff, you know what I mean? So they're very relaxed and so open about, they just allow me. And I know that sounds kind of silly that they allow me, but a lot of bands, I've been in other bands where I was told how to dress. It got really misogynistic, and of course I left those bands. Yeah. But yeah, so it's just a very equilibrium sort of situation where they allow me to be expressive as I can, and then the guys also write lyrics too. Like Keith wrote the song Coven, for example. So I'm a witchy person, so he was thinking of that and thinking of the vibe, thinking of the album cover, so he was like, I'm going to write this. And he's really good at it, Jeff wrote on War is Hell. He wrote a lot of lyrics on there as well. So we're all really good songwriters, but I guess in this particular period with the Me Too movement, like they just stepped back and they were like, you can, pretty much write this, minus Barracuda, of course. So.
Of course. Now, yeah. Obviously, a lot of art is open to interpretation in a way. So, your fans are going to digest this music and it's going to resonate. I think it's very important that you express these messages through your music. But if somebody relates to it in their own way, even if it's a completely different interpretation than what you originally wrote it to be, do you think that could add another layer of context or add another layer of meaning to the song as well?
Absolutely. Like sometimes it blows my mind that I get messages from people like in Germany or somewhere over there, like, and they're like, yeah, I'm listening to, I had a girl actually at the second record. She messaged me and she's like, one of the tracks, like it just pretty much saved my life. Like I kept listening to it and I was like, there's no way. Like, I'm just this little person on a rock in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I didn't know that I could make an impression like that, or much less the band. So it was really cool to hear that. And I've heard repetitive, sort of similar messages over the years from different places all around the world, like, that it made an impact. I had a reviewer on this album, a lovely lady named Kira. She did a really lovely review of our album, I gotta say. But even if she didn't, like, she messaged me afterwards and she was like, it just aligns with me as a person. And I can't speak for what you're writing here or there, but this is what I think it is. And you're right, it just adds such a great layer to it. Like, it can be such complex things because we can all interpret it, like, kind of like when we look at the Mona Lisa. You know what I mean? We're looking at the Mona Lisa, and some people think she's smiling, some people think she's serious. Some people think she might not have had anything to eat that morning and she's hangry. I don't know, right? So
Right.
it's like, it really depends. But it definitely makes me so happy to hear people's other perspectives of my lyrics. I think that's my favorite thing, actually.
Yeah, when you put a song out, it immediately becomes theirs. So
Absolutely. It becomes their song, because I write songs for myself, of course. We all, when we're musicians, we write things for ourselves too. But what I love the most is just the gratification I get from hearing that one person was really, really impacted by something I said, or being on stage and watching people read, like, singing the lyrics that I'm singing. I'm like, how do they know my lyrics? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I get pretty blown away by that still,
yeah,
you know?
that would freak me out
So,
too. Like I would be so shocked seeing that.
right?
Yeah.
It's a really big deal. Like, especially, like, we had some pretty long songs back in the day, like, because like I said, this is our third record. So the first album, we were like, yeah, we'll just throw on a 10-minute song, whatever, who cares? And people know the lyrics. They know, like, and I'm not talking to the top of the song, like the middle, the end. I'm just like, geez, like, they actually listen to the whole thing. That's great.
Yeah. And you led me perfectly into the next thing I wanted to talk about, because it does mark 10 years this year since Fireborn, the debut album.
That's
And
right.
one thing I wanted to know, actually, because going from Fireborn but also having Firecry, if maybe having the element of fire maybe makes them sort of like connect in a way. I've always said, like, these albums are almost like a trilogy, and every trilogy kind of circles back to the beginning and kind of brings a certain backstory that makes you question everything you thought you knew on the first album. But also,
Yeah.
what were sort of the memories with the making of Fireborn, being that was the debut category album, and like, how would you say it's evolved since then?
Yeah, and it was almost like a coda sort of situation, when you think of that, kind of like going back to, that's exactly what I was thinking. And I'm glad you picked that up, because it wasn't intentional at the beginning, but then when I was lining up the two names, because of course I had the song written for, like, I had Firecry written, and I, at first, as a side, Firecry actually was not almost going to be on this record.
Wow.
I had to, like, not fight for it, but it didn't sound as tight as we wanted it to be at first. We just didn't know exactly what we were going to do with it. And I was like, no, this is going to be the banger. This is going to be the banger. I held on to it as tight as I could, and sure enough, it became what it is now, which, in my opinion, it's just perfect, in my opinion, for the song, for the record. So going back to Fireborn, I was listening to Fireborn in my car the other day, and I was just blown away at the maturity that I have now myself as a singer. Like, I don't even, like, that person, I know her, but I'm just such a stronger, more assured singer now than I was on the first album. I definitely like what I did on the first album. Like, I did like 3-part harmonies, and it was very cool. And with the maturity and the heaviness, like, I like a lot of thrash metal and things like that. So it was cool to play some different hats on this one. But they're very connected in their wording, because fire means a lot to me. Of course, I have red here. But fire is confidence, right? And I wanted to keep that whole fire thing going, because category 6 is sort of a giant fire cane, the worst possible storm that can ever, possibly happen. That's our name. So I thought, by keeping that going and having this being the third record, which is usually the pinnacle album, in my opinion, for most bands anyway. I just thought it made sense to make that connection. But yeah, I'm just really stoked at how far we've come. Like, even like, I know we sounded good on the first one, but just how much we've matured overall.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think every album, like, I mean, there's a lot of stuff off of Fireborn that I find astonishing, and then, you go to War is Hell, it's, like, even incredible, and then I think you completely broke the mold with Firecry in a way. And it's funny you mentioned, too, because I think fire is, like, an element that applies to all of us. I know some people feel like they're more air, they're more earth, they're more water, they're more fire, but in the end, like, we're either a total flamethrower or we could sometimes be a dying ember. I feel like fire is the most relatable to the way that we move with adrenaline and move into our hearts.
Absolutely. I agree with that. That's such a beautiful way to look at it too, because, and we all have differences, and that's what makes us obviously really cool and unique. And I think each person in our band, we offer a different level of that flame.
Of course.
I'm very, in your face, robust, like, I like to, like, just drag everybody across the stage and take names or whatever that thing is. But, the rest of the guys are like a little bit more relaxed. Like, Heath is more cerebral and quiet. He's like more of a blue flame. And then you got Jeff, who's a little bit like me. He's funny and silly, but he's also kind of serious too. So, yeah, you're right. There's a variety of things going on, definitely,
Yeah.
in different people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have all four of the elements tattooed on me, so like I relate to all four.
That's so awesome.
So
Yeah, I'm a Taurus on an Aries cusp. My birthday was actually just a few days
oh,
ago.
happy belated.
Um, oh, thank you so much. Yeah, so I was born on Earth Day, but Earth Day is a cusp. So I basically I'm double horned apparently. So I have Taurus and
So
Aries. So
metal.
I'm a fire and an Earth sign. So I feel like the Earth sign sort of relaxes me a little bit, makes me a little bit laid back, but then the fire in me makes me, write really angry lyrics, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a Virgo, so I'm just gonna overthink everything I asked in this interview when we're done. But
Well, listen, no, I love Virgos, honestly. Virgos get such bad rap, and I don't understand it. Every Virgo I've ever met has always been a really good friend of mine, actually.
aw,
So,
that means
uh,
that means a lot. But we suck. No, I'm kidding. I got
no, well, it's cool, man.
it.
I suck too, to be
Yeah,
honest
we
with
all
you.
we
So,
all do. I have two more questions for you, but going to the inspiration elements behind it, because you clearly take inspiration from both personal sources, spirituality, internal and external. Is inspiration really something that could be sought out in a way, or does inspiration just kind of have to strike you?
hmm. Well, it's sort of. I feel like this happens to me. Like, I could just be, like I said, standing somewhere. And like the other day, I was just driving. It was for my birthday dinner. Actually, we were driving. Me and Jeff and Keith. We were all driving to dinner, and Keith said something really metal to me, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is a perfect title!" And it usually starts with a title. To be honest with you,
That's
a
awesome.
title of a song always is the first step in my songwriting. So I had to, like, get my phone, write it into my text it to myself, because whatever. And then what I do usually from there is I can very quickly just write a song from just that one little phrase. So it's usually a word or a phrase, or I could be standing and staring at a tree. So, like, yes, I do get a lot of visual inspiration, but sometimes I could be, like I said, 3 a.m. in the morning. I'll wake up and I'll be like, oh my God, I need to write this down. But it's usually, like I say, in fragments. So, like, it's like a title or a chorus will come to me. My brain is it's very spicy. So it just goes all over the place.
That's really cool. I can't imagine how many times whenever an album has gotten delayed or missed deadlines was really just because of thinking of titles of songs. So the fact that you kind of get the titles first kind of gets that painstaking part over with.
Right, it's just, and it really, like, if you're into poetry at all, a lot of times, like, what I hear anyway is a lot of poets do write like that. They come up with, like, an idea or small idea, and then it sort of just grows. It's like, you keep watering it and adding more things to it. But yeah, that's usually how it happens for me. It just little sparks, little embers, if you will, of like ideas, and then I have to go right away and write it down because my brain just eats whatever memories I have.
Fair enough.
I
So
just blame my trauma.
blame it all on that, right? But hey, no, no. Use the. I think you use your trauma as your armor, not your anchor, which I think is
That's ooh, okay. I like that. I'm gonna have
so.
to keep that
Yeah,
one.
of course. So
That's awesome.
yeah, and I think it's important that you mention this in your music and your art. So if anything good comes out of it, obviously I wish we lived in a world where trauma didn't have to happen or anything like that. But I think if anything good
That's
comes
true.
out of it, you know, I it's an unfortunate duality that sometimes when things are at their worst, art is at its best. So it's almost
It's so
a
true.
cruel joke in a
Yeah.
way. But
It is a cruel joke. You're so right about that. It's a cruel thing, but I look at it like, it's a gift too. Like it like I think about how close I could have been to literally going, as a lot of poor kids do, like if they, receive any kind of poor treatment growing up or whatever. You can go really down a dark path, and I could have went down that path, but I stayed on the horse, and I was like, nope. I just, like, put on my records and listened to Queen or whatever, like, I was listening to when I was a kid, and I just zoned out, and music is what saved my life. So I'm kind of hoping that with these albums, like, not to be a cornball or anything, but I kind of hope that it inspires people to keep going,
yeah,
because it gets better.
yeah,
It really, really does. Like, you can do a lot of crazy good things with your life if you just, you know what I mean? Just hold on a little bit harder, right?
that's why the world needs to hear Category 6, and I thank you for that. So
Mm.
so before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Hope we could do a part 2 in the future. Is there just anything else with Category 6 you would like to promote with the release of Firecry in terms of shows coming up? Anything else you would like to plug?
Well, we're actually working with our most recent, well, the drummer that we have now, of course, Matt Verstage. He's actually started up with our band, so we're actually getting him all warmed up, and we're hoping to do a release show for the album Firecry very soon. I can't think of a date right now because we just have to get everything sort of sorted on the set list and what songs we want to convey in that show. But yeah, I would say that we will be definitely posting on Facebook and all our, where we post things on social media about those shows coming up, probably in the summertime. And of course, you can get Firecry via Moribund Records, which is our label. And I'm already writing things for the next album. So stay
Awesome.
tuned for that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Everybody, we are here with Category 6. Be sure to check out Firecry. It is absolutely awesome. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
That was perfect. Thank you so much.
Oh, man. Thank you so much. I